today I wanted to talk about narcissism. Just a very brief explanation of what I've learned narcissism is. Narcissism's pretty deep. I've been spending a lot of time learning about it. There are different types and all sorts of different methods and behaviors, personalities. So I just wanted to give a very brief introduction of what narcissism is. So whenever we hear the word narcissism, that is thrown around quite often. It can be taken as a general term nowadays. Whenever we hear narcissism, we usually think of the classic definition of somebody with a big ego, somebody who's prideful, somebody who is full of themselves, somebody who's boisterous about themselves, somebody who's very selfish. So very much openly about themselves. We think of the classic definition of Narcissist looking at himself in his reflection, and he just couldn't take his eyes away from himself because he loved himself, not in a healthy way. It is good to love yourself in healthy ways. There are healthy ways and unhealthy ways. So whenever we think narcissist, we think narcissist, somebody who just adores themselves and can't get enough of themselves and brags about themselves. And so that is all true. And what I wanted to offer is a further explanation of what narcissism can be. So narcissists, where do I want to start? So we have the loud, boisterous, the classic definition of narcissism, of a narcissist. That common conception is of an overt, O-V-E-R-T, narcissist. That is somebody who, as some journals and books, authors will put it nowadays, an extroverted narcissist. So they will be loud, they aren't afraid to voice their opinion of themselves, they are those who will openly have their nose up in the air, and that honestly just becomes part of their stature. You'll notice people who have their noses up in the air may be a narcissist. Not all people who hold their nose up in the air are narcissists though, but that is one physical feature that stands out. Now, an overt narcissist will be somebody who's obviously full of themselves. Now, what a lot of people aren't familiar with are covert, C-O-V-E-R-T, narcissists. This is what the journals, books, authors will sometimes refer to as introverted narcissists. So everything they do is passive, it's covert, it's sneaky, it's quiet. You don't know it's happening until the damage is already done. Now, with an overt and extroverted narcissist, what you'll see in domestic disputes between a loved one, a partner, with family, is yelling, throwing things, destructive behavior. So again, that's very outright, easy to see, and is physical most of the time. The covert narcissist will act, if I could say. You don't know what they're up to until they've already accomplished it. So covert narcissists can use the mask of humility. They might be the nicest person ever, and that's how they get you in their game. That's how they reel you in. They're the nicest, most humble, selfless person, always willing to help you. They're people pleasers. They know how to please people. They don't please people because it makes other people feel good. They please people because it makes them feel good. It makes their image look good. And then the mask slowly fades away only for certain people. Often, and this can be true of both overt and covert narcissists, that their masks, their people-pleasing, people-charming, super nice person mask will come off. Some overt narcissists are just narcissists to whoever, like that's just who they are. Same for covert, once you understand the covert signs and symptoms. But overt's it's a lot easier to recognize, so that's why I will refer to that a little more. But the covert narcissist will take off their mask. The overt narcissist will take off their mask sometimes for only a few individuals in their lifetime, or maybe even just one individual in their lifetime. This helps them in their crazy making game, because if they only take off their mask for one person or two or three, maybe a handful, it's easier for them to point at that single or those few individuals to say that they are the crazy ones, when really they're the ones who made those people or that person crazy with their destructive actions. I've lived with a covert narcissist, and I've lived with overt narcissists. Many of us have, and many of us do. Have them at home, in our relationships, romantic or platonic, at work, at school, our professors, even therapists are narcissists. So it's kind of hard for me at sometimes to talk about these things, because as I'm explaining it, I am back in that experience. So that's kind of why I stopped for a few seconds there, and I'm regrouping myself right now, figuring out where I want to go. So I've gone into a little bit of the differences between an overt and a covert narcissist. So what both do, and I can go over the differences in greater detail. I can take a session to talk about overt narcissists, and I can take a session to talk about covert narcissists. But I do want to say that there's some similarities. So both covert and overt narcissists lie on a spectrum, because narcissistic personality disorder, NPD for short, is a spectrum. So you can be on the lower end of the spectrum, or you can be on the higher end of the spectrum, where that's just how you are, that is just your personality. Now, there are narcissists who are on the higher end of the spectrum. So you can look at that person and you know that they are a narcissist. There are others who are narcissistic, I-C at the end, an adjective. So they're on the lower end of the spectrum. What we're gauging here on the spectrum is the capacity to feel what other people may feel, to think about how others may feel, to think about how their actions may affect other people. And so it's their ability to empathize. Empathy, E-M-P-A-T-H-Y, is key here when talking about narcissists. And I can go over how empathy is developed, or basically just squished down within an individual in another session to become a narcissist. So I do want to point out that that is what we're looking for with narcissism. We aren't just looking at somebody who's like narcissist, looking at their reflection. We're going to learn about overt and covert narcissism, people's ability to empathize. All right, let me know what you think of this, guys.